thanks to everyone joining this afternoon. I've got what I hope is some interesting slides for you all, and it shouldn't be death by PowerPoint, but let's see how we get on and jump in. So what are we going to be talking about today? Obviously PPC, but we're going to be asking the question and answering the question of what is PPC? Why does it work so well as a customer acquisition channel? What do you need to get you started on your journey? Looking at the different technical aspects that's involved. How can you improve the performance of your campaigns? Looking at different tools to actually help you to optimize those campaigns. Looking at what you should and shouldn't be doing. Dispelling some PPC myths that are out there. Looking into the future of PPC, and then coming back to you guys with any questions that you've got. So before we do any of that, just a bit about myself, just to hopefully give you some trust that I know what I'm talking about within reason. So I graduated from the University of Portsmouth just over 7 years ago with a degree in marketing. And also during that university degree, I spent a year working for Mitsubishi Electric in their head office marketing team. And I've been within sort of PPC for around sort of 6 years now in various different roles, if that's strategy focused, executing within the deliverable team, through working on clients from SMEs to global corporations, anything from Olympus Cameras, Volvo Construction and Acco Brands, just to name a few. I currently lead a team of Pvc specialists from various different backgrounds, assisting them to meet their client KPIs. Super passionate about innovation, automation, and staying up to date on latest trends. So, first of all, what is PPC? There's many different disciplines and campaign types that basically fall under the umbrella of PPC, but for today's session we're going to be focused on paid search because it's the main one. Now, paid search, as for most of PPC, is essentially the process of gaining visibility, traffic and sales from search engines through paid efforts. The way that the ads are actually served themselves, well, they're activated through targeting keywords based on what people are actually searching for in search engines, and obviously Google is one of the main dominant search engines that we use. It's got around an 85% market share. We've given you an example on the right hand side, so we can see by searching climbing trees, that's a keyword that we target, and therefore our ad serves to that search term. Now, it all works on an auction-based model, which essentially means that you only pay when someone clicks on your ad, and already you can probably start to see some of the benefits that can come out as a result of that. Now, I wanted to take you on a bit of a journey because Google Ads, it has evolved over the years and there has been quite a lot of changes. And that starts back in the year 2000. Now, I don't know the age of some of you that are here today, but some of you may remember when Google used to look like this. And it all started off, like I said, in 2000, where we can see in terms of the ads themselves, it's very obvious that they are ads. We've got the mention of sponsored links. You can see there's a light blue box in the background. It's very distinctive that it's an ad, okay? And just that singular ad placement at the top. Now you fast forward in 2004, you can see there's a change, the removal of the light blue box behind it, and the ad is actually shifted to the right hand side. You keep going and now we can start to see that there's now more ad placements. Okay, so 2007, ads are now shown on that right hand side, also at the top, and there's then inclusion of the yellow box behind, again to give the distinction of the ads. Fast forward to 2009 was the inclusion of what we now call shopping campaigns or shopping ads, but back then they were called product listings. They're on the right hand side that you can see with the images and the text and the price underneath. And then we've still got those text ad placements at the top. As we move on through the years, there's been various other tests that Google have tried. Some of them, to be honest, weren't very good, didn't really work out. You can see the example of the banner ad there between 2011 and 2013. Didn't kick off and Google scrapped it. Then you can start to see that the ad real estate has really increased. So we've got the inclusion then of the site links, really increasing the size of the ad. So not only have you got the normal copy, you've got additional ad extensions underneath. And then I'd probably say one of the biggest shifts is actually then the name change from Google AdWords to Google Ads. Now the name change in itself isn't a massive difference, but the purpose and the reasoning behind it is because over the years where we used to just be solely focused on the targeting of keywords, we now have much more audience data, and so it's moving past just that fundamental keyword targeting and bringing more context to everything else that we do. Now, what you probably may have noticed is as we went through the years, there was various changes in being able to identify the difference between what's a paid ad and what's an organic listing. In the next slide, we'll fast forward to show you what it looks like today, and there's very minimal differences, and actually only 50% of the people know what is actually the difference between a paid ad and an organic listing. So we bring you right up to date, and this is how the search engine results page landscape looks. As I mentioned, you've got the first highlighted green box is the text ad listings, and if you have a look underneath in terms of the organic results, it's very hard to now try and differentiate the two. You've obviously got the shopping ads on the right hand side as well. They are a lot more distinctive, but the differentiation between them is a lot more sort of blurred and merged together nowadays. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of today's session is going to be looking at paid search because it does make up a large bulk of PPC, but there are other disciplines, other campaign types and channels that are also sit with under the PPC umbrella that are also important to discuss, and we do touch base on them through different stages of this presentation. We've mentioned paid search, and obviously, like I said, Google is the most dominant search engine. There are others out there, DuckDuckGo, Ecosia, but there are also other disciplines that need to be considered within the PPC strategy, okay? So we've got the more content-based search engines, which people will typically deem as paid social. So the ability to run ads on Facebook ads, Instagram, Snapchat, and so on and so forth. We then come to the more shopping-focused platforms. So there's the ability to run ads on Amazon, eBay, and also Google Shopping as well. Now, the reason why it's also important to highlight these other disciplines is that PPC in itself is almost an ecosystem, or it is an ecosystem that plays a part in the customer experience loop, okay, depending on where that customer is on their journey. Now, there will be a set of customers that have never heard of your products and never heard of your services, and at this stage, it's recommended that you utilize the paid social or the content-based search engines. And the reason for that is because these platforms give you the opportunity to try and generate that awareness and push that messaging in front of the potential customers through the audience interest options that are available. Once your messaging, your brand has been exposed to these customers, that awareness will then start, and it's likely then they'll move on to search engines and they'll begin to research and find out more information. Okay, they'll progress on their journey. So they'll move over to search. They've been exposed to your brand messaging through the content-based search engines, and at this point is then when you'd utilize paid search. Now at this stage, there will be a section of customers that will click your paid search ads, go through to your website, and they may purchase there and then, and it's almost job done in terms of customer acquisition. However, there'll also on the flip side be a set of customers that won't want to purchase from your website and then may move over to the shopping-based platforms. So they've been exposed through paid social, started to find more information on paid search, and then moving over to the likes of Amazon, eBay, or Google Shopping to then finally make their purchases. And really this is then to highlight the importance of having as much exposure as possible, because customers will be in different stages of their journey and will be ready to purchase at different phases. So that's to give you an introduction in terms of the PPC landscape. The next is to really explain why PPC works so well, and it definitely does as a customer acquisition channel. Now you may be sitting there thinking, well, you're going to say that your career is built on it, but there are some good reasons to back up why it works so well in comparison, particular to more of the traditional sort of marketing methods. So first of all, you're in complete control. You can instantly switch campaigns on and off. You can make optimizations straight away, depending on the performance that you're seeing. So if a campaign's working well, you can increase the budgets, you can increase the targeting. On the flip side, if things aren't going well, you can dial it down, okay? Not to knock more of the traditional marketing forms, but if you book out a double page spread in a newspaper or a magazine, once that's printed, once that's out there, regardless of how it's performing, there's nothing really you can change and you can do about it. You're stuck with it. PPC is the complete opposite. You're in control. You can make the changes according to performance. You will only pay for traffic and not just eyeballs. So already you're getting more value because the price you're paying, which is on a cost per click model, is on that action of them actually then going through to your website. So instead of just paying for the eyeballs where great, loads of people are looking at it, which will help with some brand recall, brand awareness, but if they're not actually then making an action as a result of that, you know, it's almost deeming wasting the money. And so you're going to get much more value out of PPC because there's an action that's going to come from it. The next one is everything's in real time. So within the various different interfaces, depending on where you're running the ads, there can be an hour to 2 hour lag in terms of that data coming through, but then you've got that data ready there. It's coming through to you in real time, and you've then got the opportunity to make those optimizations across the different audiences, the keyword data, the bid strategies, all these different levers that we can pull and all these different signals of data that you get back. You're making real-time optimization depending on that data. So you're not having to wait for a couple of weeks to get a report back to see how things are going. You can see it there and then. PPC also works so close to conversion, and that's because the targeting is based on intent. There's already a demand there. Someone is searching for your product or service, and you're therefore meeting that demand by showing an ad that's completely relevant to their search. If someone searches for red Nike trainers, you've got an ad that matches that search. You then send them to a landing page when they click your ad that's got the red Nike trainers on. There's a complete level of relevancy and a connection that will typically always bring you a higher ROI. The final point is everything's completely trackable. So no finger in the air where, yeah, I feel like we're a bit busier. I feel like things are going well as a result of the ads. We can report on that. We know what's happening. So someone's clicking your ad. You then set up those conversions. If you're a lead generation client, you know how many people have then filled out a contact form, made a phone call. The flip side of e-commerce, you know how many sales are being generated. So no finger in the air. The data's there, and we're able to report and judge the performance on that. There's also so many different levers that you have to pull to be able to improve that performance as well. And we'll touch base on optimization later on in the presentation, but we can look at the demographics of the audience. We can look at the different messaging within the ads. We can look at the location they're in, the time of day they're searching, all these different signals and variables that we're able to first analyze the data, but then make changes according to what we're seeing. Okay, so many different signals to be able to improve the performance. So there's some of the positives. Now, what do you need to be able to get you started on your journey and start to get the ads set up? Before you actually pick up the tools, there are certain things that you should think about and questions that you should ask yourself. First of all, by looking at what you do, what products or what services are you actually looking to promote, and what ones should you actually promote? And so, for example, if you're an e-commerce client, take a look at the products that you sell and ask yourself, which ones have I got higher margin in, which ones are best sellers, or which ones have a higher sale price. If you're selling products that's around £5 and you've got 50% profit margins, when you're paying on a cost per click model, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be driving profitable activity. So you really need to review what it is you're doing and the areas where you've almost got that margin to be able to advertise on. Think about your end goal. So if you just want to generate traffic, in comparison if you want to get a 10x return on your advertising, those different goals and objectives are all going to then decide on the strategy that you make. So think about what you want to achieve at the end, because that's going to inform what you do at the start. Also have a think about what are your selling points. So what do you do better over your competitors? How do you want customers to perceive you? All of these different things are then going to inform the messaging that you use within the ads and also your creative elements. So really think, what do we do better than anyone else? And that's then going to inform the messaging that you used. Also review your current marketing activity. So if you've done more traditional advertising, you may have done radio, print, or you may have already done a small bit of digital advertising already. Review that, have a look at the data into that and see what learnings you can get from it, because then that may help inform your PPC strategy. If you've started to already come up with audience personas, all of that can be then channeled in if you're running on paid social to have a look at the different interest targeting that you can make to then be able to reach that target audience through that channel. Once you've had to think of those things, it's then you can then start to follow the process in terms of building your campaigns. Now this is a process for paid search specifically, and it looks at things right, researching your keywords, putting those keywords into themes, then writing your ad copy and actually building those campaigns. And we touched base on a few of these in the following slides. So the first place you're going to come to build your paid search campaigns is the Keyword Planner. This is a free tool within a Google Ads account once you create it. And this is going to allow you to identify what keywords are you going to be able to target, how many people search for those terms, and what are you typically looking to have to pay on a cost per click basis. You'll start off by putting in what we call seed keywords, okay, just the initial keywords that you feel are relevant to your products that you sell, the services that you offer. Okay, so we've got an example here where we put in boots. Google will then return back to you a list of keywords and options that's centered around that seed keyword. So we can see we've got Chelsea boots, women's boots, so on and so forth. Now at this stage, what we typically see is people will go and select the highest search for terms, and they'll think, right, job done, that gets loads of searches, I'm going to generate loads of traffic, loads of sales, I've won, it's end of the game. The problem with that is we need to consider the intent behind the keywords that we select, because a lot of the success is going to be dependent on that. And so to really bring that to life, you can see the different levels of keyword intent and the different keywords that can almost be grouped into that. What we always advise at first is start with the higher intent keywords and the branded keywords, because these are the ones that are going to drive purchase, and these are the ones that are going to be closest to conversion. Okay, so going back to the boots example, branded would be looking at Russell and Bromley boots as an example, and high intent searches will be looking at Chelsea boots size 9 in black. They're much more long tail in nature. The search volume is going to be smaller, but they're a lot more targeted, and that customer that's searching for that term knows exactly what they want, and it's more likely then they're going to purchase from you. Depending on your budget, if you have more available, you can then start to work your way up and then start to target those terms that have more volume but are going to be working a little bit further away from conversion. So it does depend on the level of budget that you've got, but initially always start for those longer tail targeted keywords and then work your way back up from there. Once you've built out your keyword selection and you've got a list of those long tail targeted terms, and you may have had some more broader terms in there as well, it's where you then need to structure your account. And I think if there's anything that anyone takes away from this session, it's how important your campaign structure is. So at the top line level, you've got your Google Ads account, okay? That's basically the shell for what everything is housed within, okay? There's not much goes on at the actual account level. At the campaign level is where you set your daily budget. It's where you choose where you want your ads to serve, and other things like start and end dates if you're going to be looking to run your campaign in certain sprints. Within your campaigns, you then have your ad groups. Now, your ad groups are going to be where your keywords sit and also your ad copy. Now, it's important at this stage, when you have your keywords, you ensure that you group them into thematically relevant groups. And so going back to that boot analogy, you may have your campaign is just called boots, but then the ad group separates out. So you have your Chelsea boots here, your thigh high boots here, your cowboy boots, I think was another example that was returned in another group. So you're grouping them together based on their relevancy and the product types, okay? And the reason for that is because as your ads are also attached to your ad groups, you want to ensure that the messaging within the ads is closely aligned to the keywords that you target. If you threw them all into one group, you're never going to be able to ensure that the messaging is aligned to those searches and the intent of those searches. So it's super important to have thematically tightly grouped ad groups. Once you've got your ad group structure right and your overall campaign structure, it's then time to write your ad messaging. The ad format we'd always recommend to use, and it's one, I think it's in July, that it's the only one you're going to be able to use, is responsive search ads. Now, this gives you the opportunity to enter up to 15 headlines and up to 4 descriptions. And at any one time on the front end of Google, there will be 3 headlines shown and 2 descriptions. Now, Google will use its machine learning technology to try different combinations together. So then maybe at one point it will show headline 3, headline 1 and headline 6 together, test how that combination works, and then try a completely different set and identify the performance that it's getting back. After a period of time, once it's realized what the best performing combination is, that's the combination that will show more often. So by using responsive search ads, you're able to put a range of different headlines and descriptions in there. Make sure there's a set that match the actual keyword itself, but also then bring out unique selling points and key features of either your products or your services. And this is then going to give you the opportunity to already A/B test between the different headlines and descriptions that you've got available. Once this is all done, and we'll touch base on the tools that you can use towards the end of this presentation, in order to be able to upload it in bulk, but everything will then be driven through the Google Ads interface, okay? This is almost the home for where your campaigns are. This is where you can see the data. It allows you to make changes to budget, to the bids that you give to keywords. Every single action that you need to make, you can all make within the Google Ads interface itself. Now, another important topic to discuss is quality score, particularly with paid search. And this really goes back to the reasoning why you have that really granular structure when you've selected your keywords and then put them into those ad groups. And the reason for that is because there with each keyword is something called a quality score. And this basically tells Google how friendly your campaign activity is. It's made up of various different components, but Google will look at how relevant is your ad to the keywords, how likely is someone to want to click on your ad, and also look at the landing page experience. So by having that really tight granular structure, you can already ensure that your ad meets the keyword intent and relevancy, and you also have control of where you send that traffic to and ensure that it's completely aligned. So ensure that your ads are relevant, ensure you're using compelling copy within the messaging of the ads so people are going to want to click them, and ensure that when people go through to your website and the landing page that you've selected, that is going to best match the intent of the searcher. The reason why you want a high quality score is because it's going to have an impact on typically what you're going to pay as a cost per click. So the way that the positioning of your ads is determined is through what is known as the ad rank. Okay, and there's a simple formula that determines the ad rank. It is the max cost per click times the quality score will equal your ad rank. Okay, and so if we look at this example here, we can see all of these different advertisers bid exactly the same. They're all bidding £3 as their max cost per click, but they've each got a different quality score that then determines a different ad rank. Okay, so you can see at the top, an ad rank of 24 means that ad would be in position 1, and then you work your way down with the different ad rank scores to determine the position of the ads. And you'll also then see on the right hand side, that will then also impact the actual final cost per click that they pay. So you set your max CPC, but that isn't necessarily what you're going to pay. At the end of the auction, when everything has been determined, you will then establish a final CPC. So essentially, the higher the quality score, you're going to be rewarded with either a higher position and or you're going to pay less on a cost per click basis. So as we mentioned, ensure that you've got compelling copy, a really relevant structure, and that the landing page is relevant and user-friendly. That's going to help give you a higher quality score. As part of the setup, there is also a technical element. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because as an introduction to PPC, it can be quite heavy, but there are certain sections that you need to consider. The first one is conversion tracking. As we mentioned at the start, one of the benefits of PPC is the fact that we can track actions, but you need to ensure that those conversions are set up in the first place in order to be able to track them. Work with your agency, work with your webmaster, and they will be able to review your website and ensure that all the different actions on your site that you want to track are set up in the correct way. Link them to your Google Ads account, and then as soon as someone clicks your ads, goes through to your website, completes an action, that process will all be tracked and that data will then be fed through back to your Google Ads interface. For any e-commerce clients that we've got, when you want to run shopping ads, it is necessary to ensure that you've got a Google Merchant Center account set up. This essentially acts as the middleman between your website and the actual Google shopping campaigns. It is where all the data in your product feed is compiled and sorted out, and then it then sends that data through to Google in order for you to be able to display your shopping campaigns. Again, work with your agency, work with your webmaster, and they'll be able to help you set this up. If anyone here today has a Shopify site, you're in luck because there's a much easier connection and a simple connection in the back end of Shopify that allows you to create a merchant center, connect a product feed within less than sort of 15 to 20 minutes. Ensure that Google Analytics is also set up. This is where typically your events are going to be set up to actually ensure that conversions are tracked, as well as obviously reporting other data back to you in terms of how many people are on your site, as well as how much revenue is being generated. All the different data points that are useful to us are all going to sit within Google Analytics. Ensure that your Google Ads account is connected to Google Analytics. So again, all that data is nicely synced up. The final one is to ensure that you've got Google Search Console set up. Now, some of you may be thinking, that's strange, I only really associate that with SEO and for organic purposes, but it helps to have it set up and your Google Ads account linked to it, because then you can look at reports within your Google Ads campaigns, look at the keywords that you're bidding on, and also have organic data brought through. And so you can identify keywords that you're spending a lot of money on, but you may already be ranking highly organic for those terms, and you then may, for as a strategy, may be able to look at putting your budget and your focus on other areas where you aren't ranked as highly organically. So they're just a couple of areas that we can consider from a technical PPC setup perspective. So you've got everything set up, you're on your way, and you think, right, happy days, everything's live, show me the money, let me see what it can do. There will come a period where you need to then optimize your campaigns, okay? So you can't just have this set and forget mentality. When you set your campaigns live, it's highly likely that you're going to have some inefficiencies that you need to cut out. And equally, there'll be certain keywords, certain campaigns that are performing really well that you then want to scale out and you want to improve. And there's various different tactics that we can do to be able to improve the performance of your campaigns. So we've mentioned three main ones. The next slide almost groups optimizations into themes, and we'll touch base on those in a bit more detail as well. But these are top three things to remember when you're going to be optimizing your campaigns. First of all is continually update your ads, okay? For the search campaigns, try new headlines, try new descriptions. When you upload responsive search ads, after a period of time, Google will then report back to you which headlines and which descriptions are poor performing. And they're the ones that you can then replace and have a look at what it's telling you is the best performing and use those ones as inspiration to then replace the poor performers. For shopping campaigns, make sure you're optimizing the product titles within your product feeds, because with shopping campaigns, you can't target by keywords. Google will match the data in your product feed to what someone searches for. So you need to be giving Google the best signals possible, and you can do that by optimizing the titles, which is going to be a key ranking factor. Otherwise, what you will find is the titles in your feed are the ones that are typically just entered in the back end of your website, and there's the opportunity to be a lot more keyword dense with your titles. With your social ads, try new creatives. If that's images and text, continually test these creatives and improve them. With the introduction of iOS 14, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, we've lost a lot of data in terms of our targeting methods, and so it's important that we put impetus on the creatives to then connect with the broader audience that we've got. Budget allocation. Now within your campaigns, there are going to be, or in your account, sorry, there's going to be campaigns that are performing at different levels. You'll have some campaigns perform better than others, and some campaigns will be working to different margins. Always try and ensure that you give the highest budget allocation to the campaigns that you're seeing the highest ROI, okay? Google will also tell you when campaigns are limited by budget. Of course they do. They want you to try and spend more money, but try and ensure that the campaigns that are performing best for you aren't the ones that are limited by budget. And on the flip side, if you're noticing the campaigns that are limited by budget are working well, well, these are the ones that you can essentially scale out, and these are the ones that you can invest more money into. So ensure that you've got your budget allocation correctly proportionate to the ROI that you're getting back. Finally, once you've gone through all the different optimization processes that you've got available, and like I said, in the next slide, we'll touch base on them in more detail, but don't be afraid to pause keywords or audiences that you're targeting. There's loads more options out there. You've got the option to add in new keywords and audiences to test. And so when you get through all those optimization processes, even though you feel like they're the right keywords, sometimes you'll be surprised, and it's okay just to pause those and then look to divert your focus and efforts elsewhere. So as I mentioned, there's loads of different optimization tactics that are out there, and these can be categorized into different themes. So looking specifically at keywords, match types are a massive thing with keywords, and for those that don't know, match types are essentially the rules that you set at a keyword level that tells Google how close someone's search has to match the keyword that you target. Okay, and there's three match types. You've got broad, phrase, and exact match. Always typically start with exact, because that ensures that your ads are going to serve to the terms that someone's searching for that closely matches your keyword. So there's not much room for the broader terms to then come into play that may slightly be irrelevant. Start with exact. If you need to drive more volume, you can then move to the broader match types such as phrase. Keyword mining, keep having a look at the search term report that's available within the Google Ads interface and have a look at what keywords are converting or what search terms are converting that you don't currently have as a specific keyword. So if you're running with a much broader match type such as phrase and you're noticing there are some terms that your ads are serving for that you don't exactly target as a keyword, these are great opportunities for you to add as keywords and then target them more specifically. On the flip side of that, as we mentioned with the more broader match types, it's likely that you're going to get some terms that come through that aren't quite right. Pay close attention to that search term report, and any that aren't quite right, add them as a negative, and that's going to stop your ads from serving to them in the future. We then come on to the ads. As we mentioned on the previous slide, we need to keep updating them with new copy. Ensure you're utilizing all of the ad extensions that are available within search campaigns. That looks at site links, structured snippets, and image extensions, just to mention a few. But ensure that you're utilizing as many as possible, because that's essentially going to enhance your ad real estate and ensure that your ads are as prominent as possible. And it's super important, as we mentioned, in today's world, particularly with that search engine results page, where there's a lot of ad listings, a lot of organic listings, and you really need your ads to stand out. We also mentioned at the start of the presentation how Google moved from Google Adwords to Google Ads because there was a lot more audience data that we had available. Make sure you're utilizing with your search campaigns as many audiences that are thematically relevant, and ensure you're overlaying that on top of your search campaign. And so Google has a lot of data on people, and it can look at their interests, behaviors, and likes. That's known as affinity audiences. You've also got the option to plug in your own data, such as remarketing lists and also CRM data, and overlay that on your search campaigns and have a look at how these audiences perform when they're interacting and when they're searching for the terms that you're targeting. If the performance is deemed positive, you can then up your bids, up your targeting for those audiences. That ensures when someone's in that audience searching for your keywords, your ads are going to be in a much more prominent position because they give you a better ROI. Focus on the budgets. We've mentioned about that reallocation according to the campaigns that you're seeing the highest ROI. If you're running with manual bid strategies, ensure that you're continually reviewing the bids that you give to your keywords. As you raise your bids, your ads are going to be more prominent. If you decrease your bids, they're going to be less prominent, but you're going to be paying less as a cost per click. So that's really dependent on the performance of the keywords, but ensure you're adjusting it according to the goals that they are or aren't meeting. Have a look at the bid strategy. There's many different bid strategies that are available out there. Google is pushing more and more automation, but depending on how much data you're getting, start with manual, and if you find you're getting a lot of conversion data come through, you can then make the switch to an automated bid strategy because you've got the data to then power the signals that Google need to be able to make bidding decisions. Last but not least is try and automate the optimization of your tasks as much as possible. You know, in the busy world that we live in today, we don't always have as much time as we'd like to, and for some small in-house teams, it may be difficult to stay on top of these optimizations. You can utilize the use of scripts, and at the end of this, we talk about some tools that can help you with that will start to automate some of those tasks, such as setting those bids or adjusting those campaign budgets through different criteria that you set, and that can then be done on a reoccurring basis, be it daily or weekly, depending on the type of levels of traffic that you're receiving. So, as I mentioned, there are some tools out there that can help with the optimizations. It's a bit of a minefield because there are so many out there, but there's a few that we use on a consistent basis and we'd really recommend. We don't have any affiliation to these companies, so it's completely non-biased recommendations. Although if anyone from these companies is here today, I'm sure we'd be happy to come to some sort of agreement. But these are the ones that we'd recommend. So on a day-to-day basis, Optimizer is a fantastic tool to use that can do anything from looking at in-depth analysis to be able to assist in producing a bulk amount of shopping campaigns, right through to in my eyes, is the best bit, is the ability to be able to automate the optimizations that you make. And so by setting rules, and they call them recipes, you can then tell the system based on a set of criterias, if the return on ad spend is over a certain percentage, then you want to increase your bids and increase your targeting. And it can do that on a consistent basis, like I mentioned, if you want that to be daily or if you want it to be weekly. There are some free tools out there as well. Obviously, the Google Ads interface itself technically can do everything that you need to do. The use of Google Ads Editor is another free tool that I'd really recommend for you to download and utilize. That basically allows you, if you produce your campaigns in an Excel document within a template, that then allows you to upload that Excel document template and upload your campaigns in bulk. Without that, you would have to upload them one by one individually within the Google Ads interface. That can take a lot of time. Focusing on shopping campaigns, and we mentioned how it's important to optimize the data within your product feed, in particular the product titles. There is a tool that we'd recommend called Shoptimize that essentially enables you to visually have a look at the products that's in your product feed. Otherwise, it's a very XML sort of script heavy viewing, but then also to be able to optimize the data that's in your feed. So ensuring those titles include as much information as possible and have as many keywords in there as you can. From an analytics perspective, you've obviously got Google Analytics itself, another free tool. But there are other things out there like Ppc Protect, which is a fraud prevention system. Now, Google does have a fraud prevention system in place. However, there are companies out there like Pvc Protect that will go one step further, will monitor the behavior of certain IP addresses, and any that it feels are fraudulent, are spammy, it will then proactively block them out. This is going to be dependent on your level of investment and whether it's worthwhile for you. But those that are considering spending in the upper thresholds of sort of £10,000 a month, starting to look at fraud prevention technology is something that we'd recommend. Stay on top of your trends. We've mentioned Keyword Planner. That's going to allow you to identify what people are searching for and by how much. Google Trends is another great tool. So if you're considering entering the world of PPC and you want to identify, okay, well, am I in an emerging market and more people are going to be searching for the products that I sell or the service that I offer, you can use Google Trends to put in some seed keywords and see the level of search volumes over a period of time to identify the sort of state of that traffic and where that's going. So some quick do's and don'ts, which almost summarizes a set of points that we've been through. So don't just target bigger search volume keywords. Yes, they look great on paper, but realistically, you're going to spend a lot of money on them. The customer's going to require a lot of nurturing, and they're not really where you're going to be seeing the biggest ROI. Don't be boring with your search ads or social creative. I think there's one of the most famous case studies out there where Samsung was releasing a new phone, the S6, and they started to bid on the iPhone 6s, and they were quite playful with their ad copy, the messaging of their ads, where they said something along the lines of, oops, awkward, you should, or I guess you meant the S6, and something along those lines. That's obviously an extreme. I'm not going to start recommending you to start targeting keywords of your competitors of that scale, but it's just to bring the context that, you know, we don't have to be regimental, and the ads that stand out are the ones where you're going to see a greater success. Don't just set and forget your campaigns. Continue to optimize that performance and stay on top of the way they're performing. Continually test everything you do. I know it's cliche and every marketer will tell you that, but honestly do. things work out at the start and then they quickly change. You need to stay on top of new campaign types, reevaluate what you're doing, and continue to try and push things forward. Ensure you've got the correct conversion tracking set up. There's no point spending money on these campaigns and then not really having a clue of how they perform. It's one of the main benefits of PPC, so make sure you've got it set up. And clearly define your audience. And so where we mentioned that start, you're doing that research phase, get a feel for your audience personas and get a feel for what people are going to be searching for, and that's going to be able to power your strategy when you're looking at the keywords and looking at the different audience interest options you've got across those channels. So to dispel some PVC myths, because there are quite a few out there. So first of all, what we typically hear is PVC is expensive and it's only for large businesses. You control your budgets, so you can spend as much or as little as you want on campaigns. Within Google Ads, there is no minimum spend limits, and therefore you've got complete control over that. If you wanted to set a budget of £10 a day, you absolutely can do. You've obviously got to bear in mind that each keyword is going to have a minimum bid floor that you're going to pay on a cost per click basis, and therefore the smaller budget, obviously the smaller amount of traffic you're able to drive and the data that you're going to get. But you have that option and you do not need to have a large minimum budget to start. No one clicks on PPC ads, it's a waste of money. Well, obviously, first of all, that PPC is a pay per click basis. And so if no one clicks your ads, you don't spend any money, so it wouldn't be a waste. But as we've seen now, the difference between paid ads and the organic listings is lessening, and therefore the lines are being blurred and people aren't actively thinking that's an ad, I'll move past it. Okay. We've got clients that have been running for 15 odd years, and it's not like there's a trend of where less and less people are now clicking their ads or anything like that. The final one that we hear is PPC is best as a short-term strategy. So we do hear it when people say, right, I want to start with PPC, but then after a period of time, I want to switch everything to SEO. My SEO will be up and running then, or organic rankings will be rising, and then we can turn our PPC off. Providing that your ads are profitable and they're working for you, then you should be using both to increase your ad real estate, okay? If you only run with your organic listings, okay, and they're in position 1, it's still likely that you're going to have competitors that are running ads and they will be appearing above yours. So long as PPC is profitable, you can use them as a dual strategy alongside the work you're doing on SEO as well. So finally, looking into the future of PPC. You've probably heard a lot of talk at the moment about the cookieless world that we're going to enter, and we're seeing on a consistent basis that the data that we're getting back to protect user privacy is becoming less and less, okay? And so we are seeing a reduction in cookies. What this is going to mean is that targeting options will need to be broadened even further because we have that less specific data, which is then going to put more emphasis on the creatives, as we mentioned previously. So you really need to bring to life within your creatives what it is you're selling, those unique selling points, because we can no longer zone in on those super granular audiences. They are still very targeted, but they are being lessened as time goes on. It's also now an opportunity to ensure that you're investing in your first party data as well. Okay, as we mentioned with Google Ads, you can plug in CRM data and then be able to allow the system to find things like lookalike audiences. So use as much of your own data as possible and ensure that you're investing for the future to harness your own owned data. Google is pushing more and more automation, which will mean the manual changes that you can currently make will diminish. Okay, there's more campaign types being released where there actually isn't us as an agency, you as the advertisers can start to control specifically, which will mean that from a PPC perspective, there's going to be much more emphasis on strategy. but also ensuring that you're providing Google with these data points, okay? The machines can only work as well as the data that's being fed in. If it's not getting data, it won't know what it can optimize and it won't be able to learn from anything. So just ensure that moving forward, when we start to see a lot more automation, that you're spending time on strategy and also reviewing things like your touch points on your website to ensure that then you've got conversion tracking set up and we're providing that data to Google. So when we're keeping in mind with data restrictions and Google pushing more automation, there's also going to be more focus on the creative, but also reviewing your products as well. So ensuring that they're competitive on price is from an e-commerce perspective, or also have a service offering, and also put focus on your website as well. Okay, you've got to remember with PPC, you're sending traffic to the website, okay, but there's a whole ecosystem once they get there. There's no point spending all this money on getting the traffic to the site if it's not then user-friendly or well-optimized, and they're just going to instantly drop off. So focus on creative, focus on product, and also website performance. We've shared some free resources with you. I know this deck is going to be sent over after, so you'll have these available. All of the big game players have their own training and qualifications. Even if you don't want to actually take the test, the exams and do the qualifications, still use the revision support documents that are available to get you up to speed on everything. And so there's various different places for that. There's a load of publications out there as well for you to stay on top of latest PPC news. I heard these guys climbing trees aren't too bad either. So feel free to check out our website, read our blogs, and stay up to date on everything that we've released. There's a range of different campaign tools out there. We touched base on that on the tool section, but this just provides links to a few of those, such as the ads editor tool that you can download, install on your device, as well as the link to Google Trends, etc. PPC glossary, I won't go through this line by line, don't worry. This will obviously be available for you when this is sent over, but it just helps you. There's a lot of terminology out there. Us as an agency try and speak quite sort of clearly and in simple terms because there's a lot of jargon that's thrown about, but this will just help you, when you're starting your campaigns and you start to see all these different terms, just to help you exactly what they mean. So if you've enjoyed this webinar, the good news is these two chaps are doing their own as well. So Josh is doing a webinar based on SEO fundamentals in June, and then Will is taking one on for Google Ad Grants for registered charities, and that's the end of July. That's everything from me. Thank you for listening. Back to you guys with any questions.
Charlie, thanks so much. A really fantastic session. We are going to have some questions now. Frankie's actually going to put questions to you, but just to get things started, there were a couple of questions around quality score. So can you see your quality score? And is your quality score the optimization score? Are you able to talk about that a little bit further?
Yeah, so yes, you can see your quality score. That will be in the Google Ads interface. If you go to the keyword section, you'll need to add it as a new column where you can see the quality score out of 10, but you can then also see the different components that make up that quality score, and it will give you those three components. So the ad relevancy, the landing page experience, and the expected click-through rate are ranked below average, average, and above average, and that can all be seen in the Google Ads interface. It's not, so there is, within a Google Ads interface, they will give you something called an optimization score as well. So quality score is separate to that. I would be careful with the optimization score. It's one that's given by Google, and have to be careful not to bash Google because my career is built very closely to them. But a lot of their optimization score is centered around investment. And so things, if like campaigns are limited by budget, a recommendation to increase your optimization score by 25% as an example, may be just to increase campaign budgets. And if you don't have the investment to do so, then it's going to bring down your optimization score, but it has no direct impact on the actual performance of your campaign, so I wouldn't be overly concerned by it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for clearing that up, Charlie. I think we've got some other questions here as well. So where should we start? Someone's got here, what's the best channel / campaign out of all of them to generate the highest ROI?
I think initially start with paid search. I think that's one of the main reasons why a lot of the presentation today in the session was focused on paid search. We know there's obviously a lot more disciplines out there, but going back to that point on relevancy, because people are searching, there's a demand, and then you're then showing your ad to them. It's less interruptive, but it's actually catching on that demand, and so it works a lot closer to conversion. And so go with paid search. For any e-commerce brands or clients, I'd advise to go with shopping campaigns first, because there's an image of the product, there's a price, there's a title. They're almost like a mini landing page, and so that user's already pre-qualified before they click the ad. The likelihood is when they do then click the ad, right, they already know the price. There's not going to be any nasty surprises when they actually get through to the website. And typically with that, you'll see a high ROI. So paid search overall, regardless if you're lead gen or e-commerce. If you're e-commerce, to then break down that paid search is then to focus on shopping campaigns.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Charlie. We've got another question here actually from Nicola. Is it better to have a search campaign or a smart campaign?
So automation has moved a long way throughout the years. I would still start, and it depends, Nicola, with the size of investment that you're making and understanding how many conversions, etc., you're going to get back. But start with manual and start with search, and then you can potentially move your way through to smart. Smart shopping campaigns are actually going to be sunset, and they're no longer going to be available. And that will then move to Performance Max campaigns. But Performance Max are very new. There are tests ongoing, but we're unsure on how sort of profitable and how high performing they are at the moment. So start with just normal search campaigns, start with normal shopping, because particularly if you move to smart shopping now, it's going to be moved over to Performance Max anyway. I think that's later this year.
Thanks, Charlie, for clearing all of that up. I've got one. We've got time to fit in one last question, I think. So, what do you think the biggest mistake is you've learnt from yourself so far, Charlie?
The biggest mistake that I've made, I think sometimes you can almost over-optimize, and so you can look at the data and want to, because you're able to every single day, it almost gets a little bit addictive. And so you'll come in the next day and think, right, I made some changes yesterday, how's that performed? When realistically you need to give these things time. Yes, PVC is super reactive, you can change something every day, every hour, but let the data pan out. And I know sometimes when performance isn't always going well, which sometimes it doesn't, you want to continually keep changing things, but make some changes and then leave it, let it rest for a period of time, and then have a look and then start to make other changes. Otherwise, if you make loads at once, you can't really then spot actually which one has had the actual effect. So I think probably over-optimizing is typically sometimes a mistake I make.
That's good to know. So I think that will kind of finish everything off, if that's okay with you, Charlie. I don't know if you've got anything else to add. I believe we've sort of answered all of the questions in the box, so if everyone else is good.
Yeah, good from me. I just think if anyone's got any final questions they haven't managed to ask, my email is charlie@climbingtrees.com, so feel free to send me over an email if there's any questions that you've got or you'd like our help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Charlie. That was great. It was absolutely brilliant. So I hope everyone has taken something away from it, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar at the end of the month. Thanks again, Charlie.
Cheers. Thanks, Frankie. Thanks, everyone.